Welcome back to the MUSB Dugout. I'm Scott Hall. I'm now joined by one of the most fiery competitors in program history, Andi now, of course, better known to Marshall fans as Andi Williamson. Now, Andi played for the Herd from 2011 to 2013, helped lead Marshall to a Conference USA title and its first ever trip to the NCAA Regional Tournament. Andi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing good. Glad to have you on here. So you're just trying to roll through all these interviews. It's good to have you on.
It's an honor to be on, and I love what you're doing and you're continuing to do for the program. It is phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I had absolutely no idea I'd still be here this long, but hey, why not, right? Well, we'll get to your multitude of playing days here in just a second, but let everyone know what you've been up to since your playing days.
So since I've been playing at Marshall, or since I've completely quit playing?
Yeah, since all of your playing days are over, because
since all my playing days are over, I did lessons for a little while, but now I am a full-time housewife and full-time mom to my sweet boy Lennox. He's 9 months old.
Okay. Yeah, yep. That was going to be my next question, was how old was he? So
yes, he's 9 months, but he's already wearing like 24 months in clothes. He's huge.
Already got him growing, so.
Oh yeah.
Goodness.
Oh yeah. I'm already working on the catching, the throwing, all that fun stuff, of course.
Oh, okay. So you're going to try and turn him into a baseball player. Is that it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It doesn't matter whatever sport he's going to play. He's going to play baseball.
Whatever. Yeah. Baseball, basketball, whatever he wants to play. I'll be his number one fan right there cheering him on.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump back in time then. When you were younger, did you play any other sports, or was it pretty much softball the whole way for you?
I actually did softball, basketball, cheerleading, and gymnastics. So I was doing I only played softball in softball season. I didn't do softball all year round.
Okay, so you were pretty.
I stayed super busy. Yeah. Yes.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of times coaches will often say that some of their better players were ones who played those multi-sports, not somebody who concentrated on just one thing. And so, I mean, you had, basketball, and you said cheerleading and gymnastics. So, I mean, you had all kinds of athletics going on.
Yes, and I loved it too. I think that's great for kids to do multiple sports too. And I think that's why I never got burnt out on softball, because I was so always when it was finally softball season, I was so ready to play.
Okay, well, that's good. Now, what drew you to the game? What was it about that in particular that especially made you want to go on and play it in college?
I absolutely loved softball. So I loved all the sports, but softball was my favorite. It was my passion. Just being on the mound, being in control, the pressure, winning each little battle. I'm competitive, so I love anything that is a challenge or competition. I'm all about it.
Okay, good. Now, when did you start to get noticed by college coaches?
I actually started getting noticed around 8th, 9th grade. I started getting looked at when I would go to travel ball tournaments. I played with the West Virginia Diamond Dusters. It's a well-known organization in West Virginia, and we would travel a lot, and they would start coming up and start looking at me when I was younger, because I think a lot of it had to do with just I always threw pretty hard, so that was just something that would catch their eye.
Oh, yeah, because, I mean, obviously you really can't teach speed that much. I mean, they always say that even with somebody who runs, you can't teach speed. You can teach the other things, but, obviously if you're throwing, yeah. Okay, now.
And funny story is when I was younger, someone saw me and they were like, well, she's probably too small to be a Division I pitcher, but they hadn't saw me pitch yet. But they just saw me and were like, well, yeah, she'll probably be too small to be a Division I pitcher, And then when they saw me pitch, they were like, okay, well, I'll take that back.
Okay, well, good. At least they got to see you pitch, because otherwise I was about to say, boy, were they wrong about that one. because then you end up making the decision to go to Tennessee. I mean, obviously, very storied program, one of the best in the country. Was that a tough decision for you? Because I know you had so many schools looking at you, including
it was
playing for.
It really came down to Tennessee, Marshall, and Georgia. But I saw Tennessee play in the World Series when I was a little girl. Monica Abbott pitched for them, and I saw them and I was like, well, I want to go to Tennessee. That's where my dream school is. I want to go. So when they offered me, it was really hard to turn them down. But I actually was committed to Marshall, and I talked to Shonda on the phone, and she said, if it doesn't work out for you, you always have a home here at Marshall. And that made me feel good, knowing like if it didn't work out at Tennessee for me, I could end up back home where I was meant to be.
Well, you really can't blame you for taking that shot at Tennessee because, and especially early on with players in this state, not a whole lot of the big schools were really coming for them. And so, you had this opportunity then to go to a team, like you said, that had been to the World Series and had all that national exposure.
Exactly. And I actually got the opportunity. We made it to the World Series. So it ended up working out well. Like I got to play in the World Series, the Women's College World Series. And that was always a dream of mine as a kid too. But I was just so homesick. I'm real close to my family. So it was so hard. I know it's only 5 hours away, and I don't know how some people can do further, but it was tough for sure.
Well, yeah, and you had teammates, I'm sure, at Tennessee who were from the West Coast. And then obviously here in Marshall, you had teammates who were from the West Coast. So,
yes.
Getting to travel that big.
I don't know how they did it.
But what was that experience like for you, though? I know you didn't get to play much that year, but still, you're there at Tennessee. You're learning from the weeklies, the coaches there. And like you said, you get that chance to go to the World Series. What was that experience like for you?
It was an amazing experience. Like I said, I felt like a deer in headlights almost, like when you first get to walk on the stage of the World Series. It's something you watch on TV growing up, and you're like, this is a dream of mine. Going and playing at Tennessee, playing against Georgia, playing against Florida, all these teams you grow up watching on TV. And, it's just such an honor. It was such an honor. And who helped me the most, honestly, was one of their volunteer coaches, Stephanie Humphreys. If it wasn't for her, she helped my pitching tremendously. She took me to the next level, and I really owe it to her.
All right. Well, so were there any other factors other than you missed home as far as transferring to Marshall then? Coach Stanton had told you that if it didn't work out at Tennessee, you always had a place. But, what was there anything else that led you to come to Huntington to play after that Tennessee?
Home was a big reason, but also too, I was always a Marshall fan. My dad played basketball at Marshall. I've grown up being a Marshall fan. So it felt like home for me. It felt like that's where I was meant to be. I loved Coach Stanton. I loved Randy. She was the one that recruited me at the time. When she was there, and she was just awesome. And then it ended up being Coach B and Coach Will, and I loved them. And then Ashley Goo played, and she was my teammate in travel ball. So it just felt like that was the right decision for me.
Well, then how was it once you got to Huntington, then mixing in with now your new coaches and your new teammates?
It was adjustment at first. They always say they remember me rolling in with my big earrings in and my lip liner and my makeup. They always give me a hard time in my tan. But it was an adjustment. But like I said, it just felt right because I felt comfortable, and it's only 45 minutes from my parents' house. So if I wanted to go home on the weekends, Coach was always great about letting me go home. If I wanted to go home or I was getting homesick, my parents could come down. And on campus, I had a lot of friends that I went to high school with and stuff. And Marshall just felt right. I knew that's where I was meant to be this whole time.
Okay. All right. Now, your first season at Marshall, it's a little rough. You went through an injury there. And of course the team had an early exit from the conference tournament. Just talk a little bit about that first season there with Marshall.
That first season was tough too, I think, because the year before that, like you said, at Tennessee, I didn't get to pitch much. So it was basically like I set out a whole year of softball pretty much. I got to practice and stuff, but it's totally different between practicing and gameplay. So my confidence was down a little bit. I wasn't who I was. My last season really when I pitched was in high school, and I was dominant. I dominated pretty much every time I stepped on the mound. So when you go to college, my sophomore year was basically like pretty much my freshman year. I had to learn. I was with the new coaching staff. Coach B was making some good tweaks on my pitching mechanics that I needed to fix to help me be better. So it was my sophomore year really, to me, was kind of more like of a learning experience rather than a season because it was a building year. It was a building year to get where I needed to be.
Okay, then moving into your junior year, and we clearly got to see more of what you were meant to be because your ERA just absolutely drops. It goes from 3.66 in 2011 to a 1.5 in 2012. You get 268 strikeouts, and of course, going into the end of the year, this squad really showed how much fight it had, especially in the conference tournament.
Yeah, I think we all got hungry too. Like, I decided once my sophomore year ended, I came home, I had my little cry, and I was like, I will never have another season like that. Honestly, that was the first time I'd ever experienced failure as a softball player. So, like, that was my motivation. I was like, I'm going to work my butt off this summer. My junior year, I will never have that again. Like, I'm going to work to my full potential and play like I know I can play. And my junior year, we just clicked. We clicked as a team. We clicked on the field, off the field. Like, we trusted each other. We really did. We had a good time. Like, it was such a good group. Like, we were all confident in each other, and we just had that fire because we all wanted to win. We could taste it. You know, when we got that, we started getting those wins. We started tasting it more and more, and we loved it. We wanted to keep it. We didn't want to lose. We wanted to keep it going. And everybody worked hard. Everybody worked hard on and off the field.
Well, I mean, there had been obviously a couple sour years there. In 2010, when you were at Tennessee, Marshall didn't even make the conference tournament. And then 2011, the quick exit there. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of seemed like everybody was sick and tired of, okay, we got to get ourselves back up to the top here. This is nuts.
Exactly.
Okay, but getting into the conference tournament that year in 2012, talk about that game against UAB. They're the higher seed. You're at the place. You're going to extra innings. I mean, that game was just a fight back and forth.
It was always a fight with them. They were always good. They were good, and we always just – I don't know what it was with them. It was always down to, like, the last inning. It was always a nail-biter with them because they had – I knew, though, like, me and Coach Big did a lot of studying on their lineup. Like, they had that core lineup, like, that could beat you. They could hit the ball. I mean, they could hit the ball. So, you know, you don't mess up with them. They had good pitching. Like, they were a good, well-rounded team, as were we. But I think what it came down to was we never doubted ourselves in that game. We knew that we were going to come out on top against them. And we prepared for them. We worked hard because we knew that we were going to have to play them, and we knew that it was going to be a tough win.
Now, what were your emotions on Samantha Spurlock's walk-off, especially as the pitcher, knowing you don't have to go back out there for the next inning? It's done.
I was so pumped. And you know what? No one needed that better than Sam at the time. Like, she was so due for that. And when I knew it. I knew she was going to get it. I was like, Sammy, girl, it's all you. You got it. She's like, I know, I got this. She was confident going to the plate. She was ready. Like, I knew she was going to get it done.
So now Spurlock, the senior from Huntington, West Virginia, will step to the plate. 2 outs. Streetman winds and delivers. First pitch taken for a strike. Streetman eyes for the sign. Winds and delivers. Sends one in. Spurlock slaps it back foul to the backstop. 0-2 count now to Spurlock. The senior has made some significant plays for the Thundering Herd in this contest. Can she make one more? 0-2 count. The UAB fans coming to their feet. Streetman winds and delivers. That one slapped up the middle. Game-winning run comes in. Christina Braxton scores. Your ball game is over. The Thundering Herd is moving on to the 2012 Conference USA Softball Tournament Championship game. The senior from Huntington, West Virginia, comes through in the clutch with the base hit up the middle, scoring Christina Braxton.
Well, and I always like just seeing in the video clip too, because you got the UAB fans behind home plate, and as soon as she hits the ball, everybody drops except you see Sam's dad jump up, and he's, you know, pumping his fists and everything. You got that one fan who's mixing with all the UAB fans because all the rest of the Marshall fans were over.
One fan.
Yeah, but Big Sam was behind home plate, and I absolutely loved that. I mean, and then of course you all.
I don't know who was more excited, him or her, because he was pumped.
Well, but you know, so now okay, you had that 1 year at Tennessee. You had the rough year that you, like you said, was basically kind of like your freshman year. So now you've made it to the championship game, but Marshall still played a good game against Tulsa, but unfortunately took that loss. So what was the feeling with the team at this point after falling in the championship game, after such a close contest?
Again, I think we were all devastated. It was tough because Tulsa was a good team, and they were just better than us that year. I mean, we were good and we fought it all the way in, but they beat us. I mean, there was no ands, ifs, buts about it. But then I think, honestly, I'm glad it happened because that was motivation for me for my senior year, because I was like, I came home. I was like, apparently I worked hard, not hard enough because we still win. I use that as motivation because I was like, my senior year, we are going to win this championship. There's no ands, if, buts about it. Like, I don't care what it takes. We're going to win. And I think everybody had that mindset, especially us seniors, because we got a little bit of taste of that championship. And so we knew that we just had to put in a little bit more extra work and time to get the win.
Well, I'm sure, too, you probably had a little bit extra motivation from that NCAA selection show where it looked like everybody in CUSA around Marshall got selected. Okay, obviously Tulsa went because they won it. You know, UAB was the 2 seed. They got selected. But then it was like they skipped over the 3 seed, which was Marshall, and picked Houston and UCF, who Marshall had beaten in the series during the season. I mean, what was that like? Because, I mean, I remember, you know, for me sitting in the room watching it too, but I wasn't a player. I mean, what was that like for you all to get all the way through the show and see everybody else picked but you guys?
We were mad. I mean, there's no ands, if, buts about it. We were ticked off. My mom, I remember I called my mom because I was so mad, and she was just as mad as I did, so she didn't even help calm me down because she was mad too. Because, I mean, it was just unfair. Like, I always felt like Marshall would get overlooked. You know, like, we didn't get the credit we deserved, so we were like the underdogs. So then it was like, you know, if we win, we can't be denied. Like, if we win, they can't deny us. They have to give us a spot in the NCAA. Because, I mean, I really think that team and that year we deserved the spot. We really did. We played hard. You know, we finished 3rd. We beat the other teams. Like, we should have been in that year.
Well, I mean, even, you know, finishing off senior weekend, you swept UCF and shut them out. They didn't even score a run, and they get to go. You know, and I remember Coach and I talked about this after the selection show. I said, you know, even if we had gone and been 2 games and done, I still felt like it would have been 2 hard-fought games. You know, it wouldn't have been that, oh, you lost 10-0, and oh, you lost 7-0, and that's it, you're out. I really felt like the team, if they were 2 and done, it was going to be 2 hard-fought games.
Absolutely, because we were peaking like late. We really did. We started really getting going good at the end of the season. Like, it's like we're like, yes, we're hitting our peak, but you know. So I really think like we would have done well that year in the tournament. And I think we would have got a win 100%. Like, I think that I'm fully confident because UCF was good and we held them scoreless. Mm-hmm. That's a big deal because they were dominant that year. You know, Mackenzie Audis was one of the top pitchers that year, and we did well. We scored off her. You know, I just remember it was heartbreaking that we were doing so well and we felt like we got cut short.
Now, what were you thinking going through the fall when Coach Stanton kept saying, you all will be the best team in Marshall softball history? What was that like? I'm
thinking, heck yeah, we are. We're going to be. You're right. Yeah, I know it. You know, like it's I feel like too, because when like my sophomore year, I doubted myself. So my junior year, I put the work in over summer and stuff. And I was like, you know, I'm going to be fully confident. I'm going to be who I know I am. And it helped having Coach say, you guys are going to be the best team. And then, you know, we had that horrible start of the season. I was like, oh, my God, we're going to be the worst team in Marshall softball history if we don't get our heads out of our butts, you know. And so it was just great that we knew that she had that confidence in us. Coach Williams had that confidence, Coach B. So I think that really helped instill it in us. And then we started believing in ourselves.
So, well, I talk a little bit about that rough start because obviously, you know, there probably were some thoughts of like, what are they nuts? There's no way we're going to win a championship with the crap that we're putting out on the field right now.
I mean, but nothing went our way. Like, nothing would go our way. And I was just like, we've got to catch a break. And sure enough, we didn't catch a break for the first like 6 games, 7 games. I was like, oh my God. But even through that, Coach Stanton kept saying, you guys are going to be the best team in Marshall softball history. And that's when I knew, I'm like, she is fully confident in us. Like, she believes in us. Like, or she wouldn't be saying that because she's not one to say stuff that she don't believe. And we all know that, you know. But all of us girls, we were really starting to doubt ourselves. So we had a team meeting. We're like, all right. And then I think when we got that first win, that was when it's like it turned around. We're like, we just need to win. You just need to get one win, and then we can get out of this mess.
Well, and then, you know, start getting into the season a little bit more. You get swept at Tulsa, which, again, Tulsa, great team, always seem to have our number. But then –
always.
Yeah, but then you roll off a 14-game winning streak after that. I mean, what was that like, especially as a pitcher, going through just win after win after win and sweeping 3 different conference opponents during that time?
I think we knew that was in us for the whole time. That's why we were so kind of disappointed in ourselves at the beginning, because we were like, we are better than this, so I think that was just us finally showing like what we were capable of. And honestly, we started to feel like we're invincible, we're tough, and we put the work in. We were putting it in the weight room, in the classrooms, on and off the field. We were all determined, like going in doing extra hours on our own, extra hitting, extra pitching, and I think it was finally starting to show, and we finally are realizing, like, oh my gosh, like we can come out and win this conference, like, because like Tulsa, they beat us, but we knew like they were beatable,
Now, okay, so the winning streak comes to an end in Houston in Game 2, but you get that chance to come back against them in Game 3 and on national TV, and you beat them and you take the series. Now, what was that game like? And it was
that game was. The funny thing is, my parents still have that on their DVR.
Really?
So, yeah. So we watched it a while back, but it's so crazy when you watch that stuff, and because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but when you watch, you're like, wow, I'm old, But it was just because Houston was always a good team. They always had strong hitters, good defense, good pitching. So it was always, we always knew it was up for a battle with them. And so we knew we had to give our A game. But it was really pumped to win that game on TV and show them, because I feel like everybody always underestimated Marshall. And I feel like that year, our junior year, but then that year they were like, okay, like we know that like Marshall is a team to be reckoned with, and we wanted that.
Well, Coach Stanton always said sometimes you just need that one opportunity, that chance to be able to show somebody. And I mean, and you all did it right there, because Houston several times was always on the cusp of being ranked and everything. So, I mean that was definitely a big one. But okay, so now some up and down moments throughout the remainder of the season, but still kind of staying towards the upper half of the conference, and you get in the Conference USA tournament as the number 4 seed. So kind of one drop down from the year before. But so now Game 1, here you are against East Carolina again, the same team that you started against the year before. And the team gets 5 errors, and they're down 4-1. What is going through your mind at this point?
I'm thinking, like, how is this happening to us? It was almost like a dream. I'm like, okay. And I'm going in there, I'm like, talking to KG and whoever's going up, I'm like, you got to hit the ball. Come on, you got to get on. You can do it. I'm like bad off. Like, come on, whoever's up, I'm like pumping, rubbing their shoulders, like, you can do this. We got it. Come on, we got to hit the ball. We got to hit the ball, just trying to think of whatever we can, because, I mean, that was just we were all kind of like in shock. It was kind of a fluke. Like, we were making errors that we never make. So it was just like, what is happening? Because that was my first time pitching against them, because in the regular season, I had the concussion. So I didn't even get to play. I didn't even get to pitch against them, So, I mean, but they did well. But it was just, we were all kind of like in shock. Like, we were just, and then we found like, all right, we got to snap out of this. We got to figure something out. We got to figure out how to get this win, because we are not going down first game.
Well, and I remember, from years ago when I interviewed you guys for the video that I did after winning the championship, KG saying, you going up there and going, KG, I do not want this to be my last game.
Yes.
Okay.
I was very
scaring to her.
I know, I'm like, you make this my last game, KG. Come on. I don't want this to be over. She's like, okay.
Well, now, how does your mentality change, though, after Brianna Hope hits that 3 RBI double, and now the team has the lead?
2 outs, bottom of the 5th inning. Bases loaded. Smith winds another one. It's going to be ripped to deep center field. Will it get over Mitchell's head? And it does! Cooper comes in to score. Braxton rounds around. She is scoring. Savannah Webster on her horse coming in, slides in safely. Brianna Hope with a base-clearing double gives the Thundering Herd the lead at 5-4.
It's game over. I knew we was going to win. Once we took the lead, I was just worried about, I was like, if we get the lead, it's over. We're going to win. We're going to bear down. Because I knew, like I said, those errors were flukes. That wasn't going to happen again. We all knew if we could just get the lead, we were going to shut it down.
Well, and how often, too, I'm just talking about the errors being flukes and all, and how well you all were still playing outside of those errors. How often do you see a team where they have 5 errors, but they're only down by just 3 runs? I mean, only 4 runs basically come off of those 5 errors. I mean, usually if a team has 5 errors, you're down 10-0 or something like that.
Exactly. But that's why we knew it was meant to be for us to win, because we were playing bad and we were still in the game. You know, that's how you know you're like, okay, we got this. You know, we're playing absolutely awful and we're still in this game. So it's meant to be for us.
So really then, was that the mentality after you get that last out, game's over, ECU is done, you're now moving on. So was that kind of what everybody was thinking, hey, if we could play a garbage game like this and still win, I mean, we can do this.
I actually think Coach Stanton said, well, I'm glad we got all those errors out in that first game so we don't any more the rest of the tournament. Because we were like, okay, we used it as like, okay, we got all the bad stuff out already, so now it's going to be only good from now on.
All right, well, now you get into another classic battle with UAB. Again, just another –
Always.
Just another fight against them.
Always.
And now this time, though, they're the number 1 seed. So, but how fired up were you on that last out?
Fletcher had a home run yesterday that tied things up against Southern Miss. Williamson comes inside. That one's going to be ripped up the middle. Escareno's there. She's going to throw to second. And Brianna Hope, the Thundering Herd, moves on to the 2013 Conference USA Softball Tournament Championship game as they get the victory for the second year in a row over top of the UAB Blazers.
Oh, I was pumped because they're such a good team. So anytime you beat them, it's a good win. And I knew that we would have to have our A game against them because, like I said, they always had good hitters. So I knew I had to be focused and I really had to pinpoint. And that's the thing about tournaments is you don't really have time to prepare all week for who you're going to play because you don't really know what's the outcome. So you kind of just, just wing it. And like that night, Coach B came in. She's like, "We got UAB," so we tried it. We did a little bit of studying, but for the most part, we're like, "All right, we got a game plan set. Let's do it." And then that's what we did.
Well, and plus twice late in the game, you have who's probably arguably their best hitter, Whitney Fletcher, coming up to the plate with runners on. And twice you got her out. The one time, the liner right to Rocky, and then the second time, the grounder to Rocky to be able to get that toss over there at second base, and game's over. I mean, I mean, as a competitor, that's probably one of the things that you just absolutely love when you know that you can take down the best that they have as well.
Absolutely, because she was always such a good hitter. Like, she was a hard strikeout hitter. You knew you had to get her to just get the ball low. And that's playable because she could hit, And Rocky played some great defense there, too. I remember when that liner came off the bat, I was like, oh, shoot. And then Rocky called. I was like, oh, thank God. Thank you, Jesus. But it was just we were feeling it that day. We were really feeling it defensively. We played an absolutely solid defensive game. And I always felt like when runners were on, we bared down when we needed to.
Now, how were you feeling the night before the championship? Especially once you found out you were playing Houston.
I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous. I got nervous before every game. If we'd be playing, the deaf and the blind, I would be nervous. That's just how I am because I want to win and I want to win So I was nervous. And anytime you're playing a team that they already saw me 3 times, And anytime you're playing a team, you're always like, okay, you just got to think about it. And then, like I said, me and Coach B, we would go and do a game plan, and we kind of talk what we're going to do. And we'd be like, well, we did this last time, so maybe this time we should start mixing up or kind of see how the day's going. And it was exciting because it was like we were right back where we were last year, but we want different results this year. So we put the work in, we put the time, like, let's go get it,
Well, okay, take me through the championship game through your eyes and your memories.
God, that's hard, Scott. It seems like it was forever ago. Honestly, it's kind of just like the whole thing's kind of a blur because I think I was so excited when we won. I do remember the last inning, though, better than anything. Because as the whole – I think didn't Bain got a big hit that put us ahead or something once, didn't she? Alexandra Bain, she got a hit. Mm-hmm. And I remember a couple people got big hits, Savannah maybe, and those hits were like perfect timing. But I remember like as the game was going on, I was just thinking like, okay, it's 3 outs closer. But that last inning, and one of their best hitters I would say was up to bat, but when Holly Anderson.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she stepped in the batter's box, but I remember looking at her face because I always look a batter in the eye, and she was defeated. I was like, this game's over. Like, she's quit. It's done.
2-1 count, 2 outs. Can Williamson get it here? Let's see. She fires one in. It's going around her, right back up the middle. Williamson throws to first base in time. Out number 3, Marshall is your 2013 Conference USA Tournament champions. And they move on straight to the NCAA Regional Tournament. Marshall, your 2013 Conference USA champions. They get the 3-1 win, 3 straight grounders in the inning, 2 straight to Andi Williamson in the circle, and a fantastic performance by the Thundering Herd.
You could see it on her face. She was just like, you could tell, like, after we got those first 2 outs, and I just remember it was a grounder back to me, and I threw it to Emileigh, and Emileigh spiked the ball, and we went and gave each other a big hug. It was such an experience because it's something like we had worked for all year. We worked so hard, and I'm not saying anybody deserves anything because you got to work for it, but I felt like we put the work and time in to deserve that win.
Well, and plus too, with this program's history, I mean, they won the Southern Conference title in 1995, but unfortunately that was before automatic bids, so they didn't get to go to the NCAA tournament. This team had times where they were the #1 seed and didn't win it in the conference tournament. Times where you get to the championship and not win it. You were there for one of those. I mean, for me, it was so great to finally be able to call a Marshall championship win, because unfortunately I had called a few losses, so I mean, you still, in the broadcast, you still have to sound happy when you're saying, hey, Tulsa's your conference champion, even though you're really not. But
Exactly.
I loved so much to be able to see you all just run out on the field and celebrate together. I mean, what was that like too? Because right after your hug from Emileigh, it seemed like Coach Will just absolutely just rushed you right after that.
She did because she was ready. She was like, our junior year, she was going to, retire from coaching at Marshall and go get married. And I promised her, I was like, if you stay, we will win you a championship. I promise. So all year, anytime I would get down or something happened, she'd be like, Andi, get your head up. You promised you were going to win a championship this year. That's why I stayed. I'm like, all right, Coach, I got you. And so when we won that championship, it was exciting because, like, all year, me and her had said, like, we're going to win a championship for you, Coach Will, because you stayed for us, like all the seniors, all of us girls. So it was super exciting because she was always, like, Coach B was hard on me. She's my pitching coach, and Coach Will was kind of like my cheerleader. So she would always be like, come on, you got this, girl. You can do it, So it always was good to have that balance come from both of them.
Now, describe the difference this time in watching the selection show, knowing you're going to see your name come up. It's just a matter of waiting to see where it's going to be.
Oh, it was such a relief, and it was so exciting. It was like the anticipation because, like, we knew, like, for sure, 100%, like, we were in. And our name was going to be on that screen, that big screen, where we hoped it would be last year, but it wasn't. And it's just kind of like it's not like a sigh of, like, oh, like relief, but it is relief because it's like you did it. It's like we've set out, but we don't want to stop. We got to keep going, but we have accomplished this short goal we set for ourselves. And it just kind of like, you feel relieved that your hard work has finally paid off.
Now, what were you thinking when you saw that it was Kentucky? So close to Marshall. And
I was so pumped.
It's home for you.
Oh, I was so pumped, especially because we had them beat in regular season. That was the game I got that concussion. Mm-hmm. I was, in the 7th inning, what's the odds of that? I was like, it's meant to be. We're going to supers, I was like, but I honestly kind of was hoping Tennessee would come on there because then I was like, I'll get to play against all my friends from Tennessee, so either way, I was hoping it would be Tennessee or Kentucky. But I was excited to see it was Kentucky because I was like, man, we're going to have a good fan base. It's not far at all. And we did have a good fan base.
well, talk about that. Talk about playing in front of that crowd because, it looked like a sellout, obviously. There were people everywhere, packed throughout the stands. And you're playing against the team hosting it, but it almost looked like there was at least half Marshall fans, if not possibly more. And
absolutely. Absolutely. And them chanting, "We are Marshall." It was that whole stadium was roaring when they were chanting that. Jessica, Amanda's twin, she was out there leading the cheering section. She had them good. She was doing good. And they were all, it was just so exciting to see, like, all that green in there. I mean, even the Kentucky fans were coming up after the game to us, and they're like, "You turned us in Marshall fans." Like, it was just so exciting just to play in that atmosphere with that many fans.
Well, and this team knew how to put on a show. You had extra innings against Kentucky. You get the win against Notre Dame, and then the even more extra innings against Virginia Tech. And you pitched every bit of it. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it's I'm the type of person, like, they would be like, "Oh, do you get tired?" I'm like, I don't really get tired of pitching. Like, I just don't get tired. I guess where I grew up, a lot of the times I pitched a lot, so I just never got tired pitching. And Coach Stanton would always say, when you get tired, you don't pitch with your legs, you pitch with your heart, and I always loved the game and competitive. So to me, it was fun. I was like, we're going to get this. And I never wanted to think of my season ending. It was just, I just couldn't comprehend it. Even when we lost to Virginia Tech in that game, it just still didn't hit me that my softball college career was over. And it was so devastating, but we did so well. I was so proud of us, but I was so upset. When your emotions are going crazy, I was so upset I couldn't even comprehend what had just happened.
Swing and a miss. Strikeout, and Andi Williamson has the career record, 728. Sarah Gullah, who held the record since 2001, is now in second place. Andi Williamson has the record on the swing and a miss from McGoldrick.
Your Herd career, unfortunately, comes to an end, but it's a record-breaking end. 300 innings, over 300 strikeouts. You're now the career leader with over 700 strikeouts as well. And now it's on to the NPF. Just talk, what was it like playing at the professional level?
It was so awesome because, it's people like I said, you grow up watching on TV. I remember the first game ever of my NPF career, the first game of the season, they come up to me and they're like, "You're pitching." I was like, "Me? I'm pitching. First game of the season?" They're like, "Yeah, you're pitching." I was like, "Oh my gosh." So I'm in the bullpen warming up. And here comes Monica Abbott. She had been playing in Japan that year, so she just got to Chicago that day. And I was like, "Hi, I'm Andi. Nice to meet you." And she was like, "Hi, Andi." She's like, "I'm your teammate now. You don't have to get nervous." I was like, "Okay, thanks." But it was so awesome. And the team I played with my rookie year, they were great. They were the best of the best. We had a great year that year, and I learned so much. I felt like my game completely had to change because it's at a whole nother level. You're not going for strikeouts with a lot of these people. You're going out for missed hits, anything. You're just going for outs, Where I feel like college and high school and travel ball, you're like, how many strikeouts? With these great hitters, you're like, you want your strikeouts, but you're going for outs. You're going, it's more of that.
And you won Rookie of the Year, correct?
Yes.
So, well, you go right from Conference USA Tournament MVP, all conference, and then straight to Rookie of the Year for the NPF. That had to be kind of a fun, span of months there for you.
It was like I said too, it was so exciting to get to play with all those girls, and they really did a good job of keeping me pumped up, helping me with hitters and stuff. Because, you go from college where it's all day, every day, your coaches are telling you what to do, to the NPF, and it's kind of like, I had great coaches, Mike Stewart and Jimmy Colatis, but they're kind of like, "All right, you and your catcher figure it out," So I had great catchers. I loved throwing to Kristen Butler. She really helped me a lot, would teach me a lot. So it was so good to learn from the other pitchers and do bullpen workouts with Monica. I feel like that really took my game to the next level.
How was it playing in Japan?
Totally different. It's hard not being able to talk to your teammates. But I had a translator, so anytime I'd have to call timeout or something, I'd have to pull my translator out there, and we'd have to talk because my catcher was Japanese my first year, so I'd have to talk to have to go through my translator and stuff. But now they're so respectful. They're such good people out there, and they love the game. They love the sport. They cherish it. After every practice, they clean out their equipment. They wash their balls. They rake the fields. They line the fields. It's just so great seeing that perspective. I always said if I ever coached softball, after that, I would have my kids do that because it makes you appreciate your stuff. They do so much studying of the game. It's just a totally different world.
So, but a great experience, though, obviously. Right?
Oh, amazing experience. That really, honestly, that changed my game too, because their umpires' zones and stuff are different, and their hitters, the way their swings, here our hitters are swings to hit home run. Most of them's to hit home runs. They're just going for singles, doubles. So you really have to change the way you're pitching. You really have to focus on getting those miss hits and stuff. And it was just a great opportunity because I learned so much about the game, so much about myself. I just love that experience for sure.
All right, memories time. What were some?
Oh, Lord.
What were some of your best memories on or off the field during your time at Marshall?
All right, I'm going to tell a story, but this one involves you, Scott.
Uh-oh.
So I tell this story because sometimes I used to work softball factory events, and this is a story I always tell, and everybody always thinks it's the funniest thing. It was when we were out there supposed to be doing our warm-up. We were supposed to be doing our warm-ups, and we were all goofing off, and Jazz was dancing, doing some goofy dance. You know how Jazz always was.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Coach comes out and is like, "Hey, guys, everybody come in the locker room real quick. We're going to watch some film." Do you remember? And then it's us on the screen. And she's like, "Jazz, what are you stretching with that dance move right there? Andi, what are you doing over here? Hobbly, is that a stretch?" I just remember her calling us all out. And for the rest of practice, we had to do the warm-up. I will never forget that because that was so fun. I mean, it wasn't funny then, but it's so funny now.
Little background story with that. Obviously, this would have been 2011 because Coach often wondered if anybody on the team remembered the warm-up routine if Melanie Storr wasn't there, because I think it was at least one day a week where she had class, and so she either came late or completely missed practice. I can't remember which. And so she was really curious, and so she asked me, she said, "Hey, Scott, get the camera and go up in the press box and try and don't let them see you." So I'm kind of, the walls are right here, so I've got the camera right along the wall, so I'm trying to make sure that you guys can't see me up there. And I've got the camera going, and then she might have even texted me in the middle of it, just asked, "Hey, how's it going? You've got to see this." So, yeah, take the camera back in, and she's like, "All right, we got to call them back in. This is insane."
I will never forget that. That was just we were all so like, oh my gosh. We knew we were in trouble when we looked and it was us on the screen. We were all like, holy crap, we're in big trouble.
Well, too, we all did get to laugh about it later because I do remember that I put sections of it in the highlight video, and everybody.
Oh, yes. It's so funny now. So funny.
Yeah, Coach was cracking up about it. So, I mean, it was, yeah.
I tell that story like when I work camps and stuff, and everybody thinks it's hilarious. I'm like, so see, you never know who's watching, so you should always be doing what you're supposed to do and working hard.
You never know when there might be a camera spying on you from somewhere.
Exactly.
Man, I definitely remember that one. But, well, here's another one. How about the trip to your family's lake house there in Tennessee?
Yes, I forgot about that. We had a good time. I remember because the neighbors called my parents. They're like, there's a big charter bus pulling in down here and a bunch of girls going into your house. My mom was like, "Oh, yeah, that's my daughter and her college team." And it was just, I feel like those are the memories that you remember the most, is because it's the bonding. It's not so much as the game or the stats or the records. You don't remember that. You remember the girls and the friendships that you built along the way.
Well, I remember, too, the next day, Gamby and I swimming out to that island out there in the middle.
Yes, you guys did.
Yeah, I kept saying I wanted to do that. I forget who had said that they were going to go with me. It wasn't Gamby, but then they completely changed their minds. And I think Gamby overheard me saying, and she goes, "Wait, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I want to swim out to this, to this dirt, island, pile here in the middle." And she goes, "I'll go with you." And we had no idea actually how far it was.
It's far. It's really far out there.
Well, standing out on the back deck, it didn't look like it was that far. And then we started swimming, and we started going, oh, gosh.
Exactly.
A lot farther than we thought. But
it's hard.
We couldn't quit.
Y'all did, and you did it.
No, we knew we were going to need a break. So it's like, we've got to get to this so we can step out on this dirt pile and just kind of go, whew, before we try and make that swim back. I mean, it had to have been at least maybe a half-mile distance.
Oh, it's far. It's really far out there. That's why when y'all was like, we're going. I'm like, okay, have fun. I'll be laying here tanning.
Yeah. But again, standing from the deck, it didn't look like it was that far, but oh my goodness, it was.
Yes.
Here's another memory I got to ask you about from at least being on the field. What did you think watching Emileigh Cooper in her pregame antics, trying to get everybody fired up?
Loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, she would get everybody so fired up. You know, me and her would sit and come up with cheers, and Taylor Winton was always good to do stuff like that too, and come up with cheers and different fun things. And we had our dance bus that Coach would say. She would make us get up and dance on the bus, do the walk. You know, she's like, "Why are you guys dancing before the game?" You know, we always have to get up and do our dances before the game. And we were that's how we would get pumped up. We enjoyed each other, enjoyed each other's company, and we were just fun. We were I was probably more of the serious one on the team, I would say, as far as being. The Jazz was fun, like getting like that, Cooper, Taylor Winton, and they were just so fun to watch and get everybody pumped up.
Some of the things that I saw Cooper do, you just kind of go, wow. That's like, I don't know where you're coming up with this from, but
only Cooper could pull that stuff off. Nobody else could do that.
Really, yeah. I mean, if anybody else tried it, I think the rest of the team would have just looked at him and gone, "What are you doing?" You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, but Cooper is like, "Okay, get us going. What do you have for us today?"
She would. She always got it going, and she always had everybody laughing before the game too. So I mean, always, every time, she always had a smile on her face. Always. She was always such a good teammate. You know, even in the dugout, she was always, even if she didn't play or whatever, she was always cheering. Number one fan. Like, you always knew you could count on her for sure.
Well, and of course, she still kept it going during regionals, because I've got a couple of photos of her just going insane again, trying to get everybody before the game started. So she didn't care. National TV cameras on me, whatever. I'm still gonna do that.
No, she didn't care.
Oh, yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, no, she was definitely something special. Loved her. Now, okay, you've already shared one story with obviously us spying on you guys during the warm up. Do you have any other?
Oh yes.
Appropriate ones, obviously, that you still look back on and they just make you smile and make you laugh?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. There's just so many. It's just all like, you know, there's just so many good memories, and it's crazy because, you know, you do that stuff every single day for like 3 or 4 years. And then it's like, you know, afterwards you can't remember it. And you're like, wow, how did I forget that routine? Because I used to do it every single day. I remember one day, you know, we showed up for practice and Coach was like, all right, guys, you know, she made a stretch and all that stuff. Then we got there. She's like, all right, we're going to have a kickball game today, you know, and let us go get pizza and stuff like that. Like, I remember those days when she would let us do that. And then I also remember there'd be times at like 11 o'clock at night, she'd be like, everybody in the field, we're running, you know, you're in trouble or something. But it was always like such a good balance. You know, we would have, it's just crazy because there's so many memories. And I still talk to a lot of like my teammates and stuff. So it's really like I talked to Gamby the other day, actually. And it's just so fun still talking to people and keeping in touch. And thankfully for social media, because you can kind of see what everybody's doing with their life now. It just doesn't. It's crazy that there's such a big part of your life and you see them every single day for 3 or 4 years. They're like your sisters. And then you go and you kind of move on with your life and you never really get to see them as much. So it's kind of bittersweet when you finish college.
What do you miss most from playing?
Gosh, I miss the competitiveness. I miss like getting out there and being able to compete, you know. And like coaching is, you know, I would give lessons and coaching, but I think it's more stressful because like you have no control. You know, when I'm pitching, I have control over the ball. Like I can control everything that happens. But when you're coaching, you have no control. You can say what you want, do what you want. I don't know how people coach. I'd be stressed to the max.
Yeah,
but I miss getting out there and playing and winning and just the competitiveness of the game.
Okay. Well, another thing, what are you most proud of from your career?
I would say that at Marshall.
Well, at any point, really.
I would say probably just to say that, you know, like I made it. Like, you know, a lot of people all the time say, you know, you're a small town girl from West Virginia. You're not going to make it. You know, you're too you're too small to be a Division I pitcher. It was just, you know, I had a lot of people that would say, oh, she's good here in high school, but she's never going to make it. You know, so just to be able to say, you know, she didn't make it at Tennessee. She, you know, just to be able to say like, you know, I came back to Marshall. I had a great career there, being close to home. I made it in the pro league, so I played there. I got the opportunity to play professional in Japan, Italy, so I always try to use that and tell little girls, it doesn't matter what other people say. If you have the work ethic and you're willing to put in the time, you can control your destiny and you can go as far as you want to go. It's totally up to you, nobody else. And I feel like, that's something my parents always instilled in me. So when people would say, "Oh, Andi, you can't do it. You're too small," or "You're from West Virginia," I would use that as motivation to work harder. And so that's what I try to tell other kids too. Use it to work harder. If somebody brings you down or says negative things about you, use it as motivation. Don't take it and let it hurt your feelings. Use it as motivation to be better.
How do you feel then as far as being a part of watching how the game has really blossomed here in this state? Because early on, it was kind of a struggle for Marshall to be getting good players from in-state. But then you come along, Ashley Goo, obviously Morgan Zirkle, the things that she has done. And now, with the current players who are on the team now being from this state, how do you feel about that, where you really did play a part in helping to make the game in the state really, really blossom and come up?
It makes me so proud of the girls from West Virginia, and so proud of just the Marshall program. We've came such a long way since my sophomore year there. Even though I am jealous they get to wear black uniforms now, because we begged to wear black uniforms, just saying.
I remember that.
Yeah, we begged, and they were like, no. But it's just so good to see how much the program has developed, like the new field, the fence. It's crazy. It's so awesome and so exciting. And travel ball's getting even bigger here in West Virginia. So it's so great seeing the youth starting young. And now, you have little girls around here that say they want to go to play at Marshall. They want to be like me, or they want to be like Ashley, or like Morgan Zirkle. So it's so awesome that we can be inspiration to the young girls in West Virginia.
Finally, do you have any other just last piece, either a last story, last piece of advice, anything that you'd want to share with the viewers, whoever may watch this?
I'm trying to think. I got a funny story.
Okay.
I remember when I pitched, I had, I would lay my neck a little bit sideways when I would pitch. So Coach B got the big brilliant idea to put me in a neck brace. So I was so mad out there doing the bullpen in 90-degree weather in a big neck brace. I was so mad at her that day. But, it did help a little bit. Not really, because I still had that crazy neck when I pitched. But me and her laugh about that to this day. The fact that she had me in a neck brace out there. And then one day she had Caddy catching me, and she had two people to gear up in catcher's gear and stand, and I would have to throw the ball in between them. I'm like, and so if I missed my spot, it would hit them. I can't remember who the people were, though. But just that was some of the crazy bullpens that we would do to work on our spots. But it's just some of the best memories. Like, Coach B was awesome. She really helped develop me into the pitcher that I was, and I couldn't thank her enough.
Sometimes you have to get a little inventive when you're trying to fix. I don't know if you really want to call it a problem, a quirk, or something like that. 'Cause
it is.
Yeah, I've seen the coaches in the past get inventive with stuff. I've seen our current coaches now get inventive with things. It's kind of funny when you see what they come up with, and then they tell you what they're trying to work on from there. And of course, you just kind of go, okay.
Yeah, Scott, the real fun interview would be interviewing you, because you've seen it all. All the stories and stuff.
Well, there's so much other things that obviously you all know that I was never a part of, and probably a good thing that I wasn't a part of.
Yeah, probably.
Oh God, maybe one day, but I don't know who would want to direct that one with me. So
that would be a fun one. I'm sure that would be a fun one.
Maybe once I'm done. Maybe once I finally leave.
Yeah.
Maybe,
You can't leave. You're like MUSB. You're like the biggest part of the program.
I'm gonna have to get out of here someday. Got to move on. Hey, you all get to move on and do something else.
That's true. It is crazy though how fast time goes by. If I could give advice to people, it would just be to enjoy every second of it, embrace it all, because it literally goes so fast, and then it's over. it's just gone. But it's just such a great opportunity. You meet the best friends, enjoy it, enjoy your time there, enjoy your teammates, your coaches, because it is such a good opportunity. I'm so blessed that I got the opportunity to play at Marshall and play for my home state, because it really meant something to play for the state of West Virginia and wear the green and white.
All right. Well, Andi, thank you so much for joining me today on the MUSB Dugout. I really appreciate it. This was great.
Yes, we had a blast, Scott. It was so great seeing you and talking to you.
Yeah, I definitely miss hearing your accent.
I know. I'm kind of nervous about listening to this interview for that reason.
Oh, I think it'll come out fine, especially for all the people, you know, right here in West Virginia who love watching you play and everything. I'm sure they'll love it. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, Andi Williamson, another name that appears in the MUSB record book over 150 times. Looked it up earlier just to make sure on that one. And of course, more importantly, helping to bring that championship banner right there. And I don't know how well you can see it, but this ring right here as well, you know, to the Marshall team and helping them go to their first ever NCAA Regionals. So again, Andi, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, and always go Herd.